Call this meeting of the Christiansburg Town Council to order. I'm going to ask that we take a moment of reflection, as we do in every council member, to keep friends, family, and communities in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask our Vice Mayor, Brad Stipes, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Nice to see a full house here tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? No adjustments, very good. Public hearings, we have none scheduled for tonight, is that correct? Very good, we're moving right along. Under the consent agenda, you have two items, which is the approval of council minutes for March 13th, 2018, and the approval of monthly bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I made a note to the clerk on an item concerning the lifeguard responsibilities, a minor correction with those minutes. So, if your motion and second stand with that correction, basically the hourly rate that we agreed to raise the lifeguard fee or lifeguard pay to. So I should have chimed in before we vote, but if the motion and second stands with that minor correction, then that would be great. Okay, to be specific, Mr. Bishop, the minutes showed a starting rate. We're raising our starting rate, our hiring rate for lifeguards to $10 per hour. So that we can attract, we're having a problem in that area. So we're raising our hourly rate to $10, our starting rate to $10 an hour, with a 25-cent raise for each of 3 years following that. And that's what we agreed to in committee, and that's what we agreed to as a council, and it's just a minor correction.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items with those improvements.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion and second. Thank you, Mr. Stipes. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sachs?
Aye.
Councilman Shoal?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, if I can add before that, I've been over at the Aquatic Center several times since the last meeting, and the lifeguards and the staff over there have been very complimentary and thanked us for this, and I think it's really going to be a big improvement for their morale and for the amount of time they stay.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizens' comment section, where citizens may come and address council on any number of matters. Ask that you come to the podium, give us your name and address, and center your questions to the chair, which is me. And we have a rather lengthy agenda tonight, so I'm going to leave you at 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to? That's the court hall rule, if you don't know. Anybody here that would like to address council? Mr. Hall?
Court, we're holding you to that. Court Hall, 170 Sapphire Avenue here in Christiansburg. A couple items I wanted to mention, but more of a solemn moment first. I believe you all have heard that Miss Oliver passed. Doris was a longtime member of the advisory committee, the Recreation Commission. She's a fantastic lady. I don't want to get emotional up here, but she, I believe there's been some comments that kind of went back and forth. But Doris, even when her health was not the best, she kept showing up, and she would be there every time that she could. And she's the kind of lady who epitomized, I think, public service. I think community, a love for each other, a kind of a kinship, a fellowship. She's going to be missed, not just by the town, but by a lot of us personally on that commission. I know Harry, you got a chance to work with her, and it's a blessing to work with her, in my opinion. A reason I wanted to come this evening is I want to offer my appreciation to Mayor Barber, members of council, the town manager, the town of Christiansburg in general. I know that tonight on your consent agenda is the resolution honoring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. It's something we started years ago. I remember Mr. Barber, Mayor Barber and I speaking many times about how really it caught fire and it kind of spread amongst the localities that are adjacent to the Christiansburg. And for that reason, I feel like that we were kind of leading the charge. And so I'm very appreciative that you all have kept that up and that April is once again Child Abuse Prevention Month. And with that being said, there's a segue into what I wanted to mention to each of you. And I know Mike's checking his watch there. Child Abuse Prevention celebration that we've done every year. It's going to be again on the 26th of April. It's the last Thursday of this month over at the second floor of the Montgomery County Courthouse. Actually, some of you have been there each year. We went from starting out from the bench, the perspective from the bench, then the perspective from the ACEs, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's basically a proactive measure of what to expect for children who suffer trauma as they age. Additionally, last year we had a fantastic speaker. Chief Sisson's here, and we had a member of the law enforcement community that spoke about the way our children are solicited online. Very appropriate because of some of our audience members here tonight, and the way in which we need to be proactive and combative in that regard. This year, we're very blessed. We've got Dr. Casey coming in, and she's going to speak about the ways in which children, as they reach adulthood, who have experienced childhood trauma, the way in which neurologically that modifies their behavior, their intellect, their brain development. It stunts development. There's a case in point that I believe it's 80% of children who are age 21 and over that suffer childhood trauma have at least one recognized DSM-5 diagnosis. And so that's one of many stats I would mention, but I'd love to have each of you there. It's always been I miss you. I want to say that as well. If you have an opportunity at 6 o'clock, we'd love to have you. I feel like it's a blessing whenever all of you are there. And again, Mayor Barber, personally, I know you always show up, you and Arlene, and I'm very appreciative of that. So in case I haven't mentioned that before. 6 o'clock on the 26th, all of you. Sam, I remember you were there last year, I believe, as well. Henry, I ask you every year. I'm hoping you can get there this time. And Brad, I know, I'm just giving you a hard time. But, it's always,
You've exceeded your time limit.
Yeah.
but that'll be on the 26th at 6 o'clock. We'd love to have you. Anyone from the town, we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Since you blew the 3-minute rule, I guess I'll have to go to 5 to give everybody equal chance. So, yeah.
And we miss you too, buddy.
Yeah. Anyone else here to address council? Thank you, Porter.
Chris Walls, 1370 Drayton Street. I know I addressed this at the last meeting, hearing portion of it, about this new zoning ordinance. I just wanted to point something out that I'm not sure that you all have thought about. You're changing it from 5 dogs to 4. There's a nice little old lady that lives down the street from me. She has 4 dogs. My wife talks to her on her walks all the time. Where are you going to leave her now? And this was originally over the definition of adult dog, which you could have very simply done with licensing or something else. Just said an adult dog is over 6 months. But now you're going to decrease the number from 5 to 4. What about a person that has 4 show dogs worth $10,000 a piece? Under the old, they were safe. Under the new, now they're in violation. What about the people that work with rescue organizations and keep dogs in their home that had 4, dogs they don't have to be killed? What about them? Now they're going to be in violation. This is another example. I understand Mr. Crockett's a jerk, but you're lowering it to 4 because I'm guessing he has 4 dogs. What if he gets rid of one and his dogs continue to bark, raise cane in the neighborhood? Next month, are you going to lower it to 3, 2 to 1 to 9? Over one person. It's another example of the town using a sledgehammer to drive a neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Anybody else here to address council? Seeing no one, hearing no one, I'm going to close the citizens' comments, and we're going to introductions and presentations, and we have a couple. I'm going to ask Mr. Showalter if he'll help me. We're going to we're going to recognize a state wrestling championship team. We're going to recognize some individual state wrestling champions and two very lovely individual track and field champions.
Well, this will be the first year I can't make fun of you for how you pronounce wrestling.
Wrestling, yes. The first thing we're going to do tonight is we're going to recognize Cassidy Crow, who won the state, who won the state championship indoor pole vault.
Wow.
And I have a very nice framed resolution. Rather than to take it out and read it for each and every one, I will tell you that we appreciate your efforts and that you have truly brought honor to not only Christiansburg High School, but to the town of Christiansburg. Thank you. Helen Crow, who is state indoor champion in the triple jump. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. Very good. You told me how to do it. But we appreciate it. We appreciate it, and you know, we're very proud of you and your sister. Proud of your dad. You know, raised pretty good athletes. Mom had a hand in it. So congratulations.
Can you tell us what, while they're getting shuffling, can you tell us what the records were? What did you win this triple jump with?
It was 36 feet 3 inches.
Wow. And what about the pole vault?
I jumped 9.6.
Fantastic. That's great.
Is Coach Warden here tonight?
Coach Seven's here for it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Coach, come on up. The first thing that I want to do, and I had to clarify with Tim tonight, we want to enter a proclamation for the entire wrestling team for the state championship, because I know that you had 7 state champions, but each member of that team participated toward the state championship. So, you know, and it's an effort that we appreciate for each and every one of you. It is a long sport. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work. So what I wanted to do was read this proclamation in recognition of the wrestling team. Whereas the Christiansburg High School wrestling team has once again been victorious, distinguishing itself at the 2018 Virginia State 3A Championship Wrestling match held in Portsmouth, Virginia. And whereas the Christiansburg wrestling team has sustained a record of winning the state championship, having won in the years of 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And whereas winning the state championship for 17 consecutive years has established a new Virginia High School League record for consecutive state championships of any sport. Whereas the following individual student wrestlers are recognized as state place winners in their weight divisions: 106 pounds Brandon Crowder, 113 pounds Garrett Kuchin, 138 pounds Marshall Keller, 145 pounds Andrew Whitehurst, 170 pounds Nick Giantano, 182 pounds Eric Eva, and 195 pounds Ty Paul. Whereas the record of accomplishment in winning the state championship for 17 consecutive years has brought favorable recognition to Christiansburg High School, its coaches and wrestling team members, and to the community as a whole. Now therefore, be resolved that Christiansburg Town Council hereby expresses its congratulations and appreciation to Coach Cliff Warden, his staff, all members of the Christiansburg High School wrestling team for their continued outstanding success in the State 3A Championship Wrestling match. We extend our best wishes for continued success. Upon a call for an aye vote, aye or nay vote, the foregoing resolution at a regular council meeting of the Christiansburg Town Council on March 13th, 2018, members stood by the opposite their vote name is indicated. And that was a 6-0 vote. The mayor does not vote unless it's a tie. So, Coach,
Thank you.
You want to recognize your guys?
You want them to come up here?
Yes, sir. I mean, they can come up, the whole team can come up and get front.
All right, go ahead, let's get up there.
And then we'll get the state
I'll hold them
champions
down
with
in
the
line.
flag.
All right, from left to right, we got a 106-pounder, Brandon Crowder, 113, Garrett Kuchin, 145, Xander Whitehurst, 182, Eric Eva, 126, Andrew Morgan, 195, Ty Kwok, 138, Marshall Keller, and 152, Nate Warden. Great job, guys. No.
They placed.
Yeah, all state places, right? Yep, and yeah.
Any other team members here? Well, this was a whole event for them. We asked them. Okay, that's fine. But I want to thank you, gentlemen. We want to thank you, and as we did with our the track champions, we have an individual resolution to each, and if Henry will hand them to me rather than to read each one out. They're very repetitious, but with that, Brandon Crowder. Brandon, congratulations.
Is that pizza?
Championship rings? Xander Whitehurst. Nick's not here. You take care of that. Here. Eric Eva. I understand, Coach. Now, some of your guys here on the platform are seniors this year. How many of them have gotten scholarships to wrestle? Guys?
We got 4 seniors,
Eric,
right?
Eric, where are you going next year?
Davidson.
Davidson. Xander, I know you're going
Bluefield.
Bluefield. Somebody else going up the Ivy League. Who's that?
Marshall.
Marshall. Very good. Where? Princeton. Very good. Anybody else going on scholarship that are seniors?
I think Nick is undecided. He's our only other senior.
It's undecided on the other senior. So the Kruger girls, are y'all going to run track somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to Liberty.
Liberty?
I'm going to Virginia Tech, but I'm not sure.
You're not sure yet? Well, and if we could, if you all would join the group up front, we'll just get a state championship and state place picture of all of them.
And get a small picture. Mayor, you need to get up in here.
And I like it. I'm not taller than anybody. So.
We need to make the group small.
Where are you going? You go in front.
Yeah, you're used to going to do it. Get the chair.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're
Miss White, I actually Miss White just a little bit. Get in there, sir. Everybody look this way for a second. Yeah. You guys gotta look up. You look at each other, I don't know what you're doing. All right, stand still, there's plenty more cameras.
great. Thank you.
Got it all? Everybody go.
That's neat, isn't it?
Can I make a brief comment, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I would like to tell all these champions here that we know we're going to read about you as your lives go on, but I want to tell you that Christiansburg will always be your hometown, wherever you go, and I'm glad I saw some of you looking at the plaques and everything. We're proud of you, but you're just starting your journey, and Christiansburg will always be your hometown.
Tell the agenda without a scorecard, folks. We have now introductions of new employees. Jesse Nestor, the Assistant Director of Capital Projects and Utilities Engineering Department, has an introduction.
I'm Jesse Nestor, Assistant Director of Engineering, and I'd like to introduce Eli Manning. Eli's been with us for about a month now. He joined us as a civil engineer. Eli is originally from Floyd, Virginia, and after graduating from Virginia Tech, he began his career in Northern Virginia. Later moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where he met his wife, Amber, who is now a teacher at Christiansburg Elementary, and they have a daughter, Lydia. Eli came to work for the town from Kirk Profit, a civil engineering firm in Blacksburg. While he was there, he worked on several projects, including trails, greenways, a scenic overlook, a historic depot restoration, and several other transportation and stormwater projects. Eli has a small farm just outside of town where he has a vegetable garden, raises chickens and cattle, and is beginning a small orchard. He and Lydia enjoy archery on sunny days, and Amber joins them for board games on rainy days.
Manning, not Manning. I saw it at first. I thought, he got Eli, the quarterback, coming to work for us. He interned with us several years ago. Is that correct?
That's right.
Very good. Very, very good. It's nice to have you back. Next on the agenda, Chief Sisson has 2 police officers. You going to do the swearing in ceremony? Very good. Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, I appreciate you having us here tonight. I have spoken many times that this is very important for our community to know their police officers, and it's a part of community service and building a strong relationship with the community we serve. The 2 members that will come before you this evening are an example of the strong recruiting effort that we have launched in our agency, not just regionally, but also statewide. At this time, I would like to have both officers come forward and face council, please. Council, to your right is Casey Luss. He's assigned to our patrol division. He was born in Bluefield, West Virginia, graduated from Graham High School in 2002. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 2002 and served until 2006. During his enlistment, Casey served 2 combat tours in Iraq, 1 in Africa, assigned to an anti-terrorism battalion. Casey worked numerous jobs before deciding to put himself through the Cardinal Criminal Justice Police Academy. I hired Casey before he graduated as a pre-employment candidate. He has currently completed our field training program and is now released and assigned to a patrol platoon. Casey enjoys hunting, fishing, camping, and backpacking. Next, you have Jarrett Rhodes, assigned to our patrol division. Jarrett was born in Salem, Virginia, graduated high school from Narrows High School in 1994. He attended Virginia Tech and received his undergraduate degree in 1999. Following graduation, Jarrett was a PE and health teacher at both Henry County and Pulaski County high schools. Jarrett was hired by Radford City Police in 2002, where he served before being hired last month by Christiansburg. While at Radford, he served as a patrol officer, narcotics detective, general detective, patrol corporal, and patrol sergeant, and served on their emergency response team. Jarrett is married to Fiona, who is present tonight. He enjoys CrossFit, hiking, shooting, and gardening. To the officer standing before you, the oath of honor is sacred. It is expected that you abide by this oath as long as you serve this community. It's incumbent upon us as police officers to serve with integrity and character, and as you stand before this council and every citizen in Christiansburg, you're swearing this oath that your integrity and character will never be compromised. If you both could raise your right hand and repeat after me. On my honor.
On my honor.
I will never betray my badge.
I will never betray my badge.
My integrity.
My integrity.
My character.
My character.
Or the public trust.
Or the public trust.
I will always have the courage.
I will always have the courage.
To hold myself and others.
To hold myself and others.
Accountable for our actions.
Accountable for our actions.
I will always uphold the Constitution.
I will always uphold the Constitution.
And the community I serve.
And the community I serve.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Council, thank you for this opportunity.
Congratulations. Great to have you. Mr. Lusk?
Yes, sir.
Great to have you, sir.
Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
Because we have, I certainly want to welcome all of you to stay. We have couple other things to get to, so we're going to take about a 2 or 3 minute break. If any of you that are here have homework to do or whatever it is, then we'll give you a couple of minutes to clear the room if you'd like. So thank you so much for coming. We are proud of you. We are proud of you. All right. Ready to go, Chris? You got it? Next on our agenda, we have the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors Chairperson Chris Tuck and Vice Chairperson April DeMontz to provide an update on Montgomery County. This is second, third, fourth year that you've done this, I think, and we always appreciate seeing what's going on.
Well, first, I want to thank you for allowing us to come and address your council. One of the things that we had an extended work session, we don't call them retreats, we call them extended work sessions, and we talked about wanting to make sure that we're reaching out to the towns and working on relationships. Well, we can pick up the phone and be able to say, hey, what's going on here? And one of the things that we said was we were going to start addressing both town councils, and Supervisor and Vice Chair DeMontz is joining me this evening. And again, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. A couple of things. This is a vision statement we came up with, and it talks about and tries to encompass everything that we believe in Montgomery County, which is a full-service, inclusive community focused on the future, where citizens and businesses benefit from a diversified economy, receive excellent public services, and enjoy a superior quality of life, while sustaining and protecting the natural environment and rural heritage for future generations. April?
Thank you. Mayors, members of, or Mayor, only one of you. Thank you so much.
We all like to think of ourselves as mayors.
All of you, mayors. Thanks so much
Some
for
are
having
mayors,
us
others
here
are mayors
tonight. The only comment that I want to make on our vision statement is that I think our vision statement can also be reflected in the visions of both the town of Blacksburg and the town of Christiansburg. And so we really, we adopted this initially in 2016, reaffirmed our commitment to this vision statement at the beginning of this year. And so this is very important to us and guides our decisions as we move forward. Our county's motto is freedom increases responsibility. And that provides a really nice segue into something that we always like to celebrate, and I know you celebrate it frequently here as well, which is our fire and rescue volunteers throughout the two towns and also throughout the county. You can see the list. I know it's a little bit small, but you can see the list of departments that are operating. These are all volunteer staffed departments that are operating to keep our citizens safe and protected, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we really worked in here recently with the fire and rescue volunteer side of things during these major snow events. That definitely increases their call volume. This is the calls that they received for February of 2018. You can see where the different departments are serving, how frequently they're moving out of their jurisdictions to assist in other jurisdictions. And it's really a beautiful representation of the county's motto, and it's something that we thank them very often in our chambers. I know you guys do as well. But it's something that is a continuous cause for celebration. Next, the state of the county budget. This is never a fun topic. And we actually just had a meeting last night, so we've got some budget updates. But I'll start with talking about our projected growth revenue for fiscal year 2019. We estimated $1.9 million in new growth revenue, and you've got the various categories there where that revenue is being generated. You can see in delinquent taxes and sales taxes, we're actually reporting negative revenue growth in both of those categories. However, we are moving forward on the process of doing some delinquent tax collections to include tax sales. So we're hoping to change that number from a negative into a positive. And on the subject of sales taxes, when this was initially presented to us, we were all kind of confused about where that number is going. I'm sure you might have seen it reflected as a lower balance in your budget as well. We suspect that we're suffering from loss of sales taxes due to internet sales and the taxes being collected maybe in Richmond and not being dispersed throughout the state. And so that's an issue. $300,000 doesn't, out of almost $200 million budget, $300,000 isn't a huge difference, but that makes a big difference when you're talking about employees or teachers or various other needs of the county. So we're really working hard at trying to figure out where that money has gone and how we can get it back into our budget so we can use it in our community.
Investing in our future. One of the things that you hear, especially during budget time, is about how we're going to divide up the pie in Montgomery County. And one of the things that we do well is invest in education. This chart, it was provided to us from the school board. And we've got approximately, and this is using the numbers and looking at from 2016, 2017. The average membership was 9,700 kids that we had going here. But we're spending in operating funds per pupil $11,314. If you look at Salem, you look at any place else, we're spending more money per pupil on our kids. If you look at local only money, because some localities are not as affluent as we are, we're very fortunate here in Montgomery County, but we're putting in $5,152. Now Salem tops us a little bit there by about $38 if I do my math right. But otherwise, we're investing greater with local dollars. But then you go to debt service. We're putting in per pupil over $1,800 per kid. And that's, obviously we've got a lot of construction that has taken place, and that surpasses any other locality anywhere around us. With debt service, each child per pupil, $13,150. Again, you look at the local dollars with debt, and that 2 cents per pupil, that is where the county is setting aside 2 cents, and each penny represents a little over $775,000 per cent. So that's $1.5 million being set aside every single year for future school construction. We will see in some of the slides subsequently where that money is being spent. And then when you put it all together, like I said, we are spending $13,304 per kid. That's a tremendous investment that exceeds anything in Southwest Virginia. Now, what are we doing with some of those monies? The county appropriated, we didn't borrow money to expand Fallen Branch. And I don't know if y'all have been out there, but some of those classrooms have opened up already. And so, where did that money come from? One, the 2 cents that was earmarked, but also sale of former school properties throughout the county. And I'm very proud that we have been able to do that, again, without raising taxes and without borrowing money. Next up on our list is the expansion of Christiansburg High School. We have funds set aside for the 1.5 cents and sales from school properties, and we started working with the school board. And I will tell you, when I ran that they should have remodeled Blacksburg High School. I'm not a hypocrite. I looked at Christiansburg High School, I said, we need to save that building. The price tag for a new high school, $110 million. We're going to look at renovating, we may be talking $60, $70 million. That would potentially give us enough money to be able to build a new elementary school by doing that remodeling. But we have the money set aside. It's sitting in the bank. Inflation is going up, and unfortunately, we do not get any interest on the first $8 million that's in the bank. After that, we only get 1.5%. That doesn't keep up with inflation. So working with the school board, we came up with a plan. What are some of the things that we can do before we make that big plunge to start the renovations? And one of the things that we could do is fix the ball fields. And then we could use those funds up front. Have I gotten a few calls and said, hey, why are you fixing ball fields when you could be trying to fix the schools? There's simply not enough money to be able to start. And so you see here, we're going to have, by spring of 2018, football field and track. You have seen the impact of your recreational facilities to fill up your hotels and your restaurants. When we get done with that track and field, you're going to be able to have state championship competitions here in Christiansburg. That means families are going to be staying in your hotels, they're going to be eating in your restaurants, and so in many ways this is economic development. And we're really looking forward to that. By adding those 2 additional lanes, it allows us to compete on the state level. Softball field. Christiansburg's girls are going to have a softball field on campus. They're not going to be having to go over to Hartgregor, and this is going to be fixed. And that's as we're going towards 2019 and fixing the baseball field. We work, and you notice we talked about the remodeling. We're looking for land somewhere towards, going towards Bellevue, out 114, but we're trying to keep an open mind in doing that. The plan is at some point in time we will buy some land, we'll take the savings from the remodel, and we'll be able to look at and establish a new elementary school, and there will not be any more mobile units in the Christiansburg Strand when we're done. And that is vital to me, because those kids deserve the same education that they're getting in Auburn, that they're getting in Shawsville, that they're getting in Blacksburg. And we'll be able to do that, and we're working towards those steps. And I know that some folks say renovations. I challenge each one of you to go out to Auburn, to take a look at the old high school that they have renovated. It looks like a brand new school. It's fantastic. Those kids love it, the teachers love it, and if that's the type of quality renovation that we're going to do at Christiansburg High School. So we're moving forward. Why are we having to wait till 2024, 2025? Debt service. Now, we've got an excellent bond rating. We've done great. It pays to have a county administrator who's a CPA. But right now, we are at our debt ceiling. And I've told you that before when I've been here in previous years. But 2024, 2025, we should be able to borrow money once again. And that's when we're going to be able to take and get the big steps in regards to Christiansburg High School. Another thing that we did, we purchased 124 acres out at Falling Branch. We're working with the town, and y'all are helping us to be able to develop that. We're working together to the benefit of all the citizens of Montgomery County. And one of the things that we want to do is diversify our economy. Right now, we're so dependent on Virginia Tech. But by keeping some of the businesses here, we're diversifying our economy, and we needed another big site. And this 124 acres is going to be able to deliver, potentially, some large employers. Now, do we have to do grading and some of those things? We got to figure out how to come up with some funds for that? Yes. But it's an exciting to be able to say, yes, we have a site. That gets you in the game. If you don't have a site, and especially a large site, the businesses are simply not going to look your way. So, and trying to look through different ways to be able to get a level pad is an important step. Well, again, we value our relationship with the town of Christiansburg, and that Fallen Branch is another an example of that. We hope to continue to work with you. We want to have dinner with you. We have had a culinary class at Christiansburg High School prepare a meal for us in the school board, and we're hoping that we'll be able to do that. We know that y'all are getting ready to go through your budget season. We're definitely going through our budget season right now. But that's one of the goals for our the board, is to get to know you better. We did that with the town of Blacksburg. We had this type of meeting, and then the following Thursday we had dinner with them at the Black House to try to get and establish those personal relationships, so I could pick up the phone and say, hey Steve, what do you think about this? What's going on with the town? To help get those connections. Now, the tough part. y'all have any questions for either one of us? Steve?
You know, I know that finances, that, you know, it's a very tough situation right now, and I'm doing that, I know that. I also was involved in the school system for almost 35 years, and I believe the teachers have asked for a 2% raise.
Actually, they've asked for a 1.5% raise, and they're 53% of the teachers are on the wrong step. The county administrator's proposed budget had $1.5 million of new money. Since he proposed that budget, there was please correct me if I'm wrong, $238,000 of additional funds because of our enrollment going up. And so that got us, and remember, their asking was $2.3 million. With some additional savings that they had with their insurance programs and things, there's about a $400,000 difference. It's capital items that they've got listed. Because of our budget, and you know, we're talking about $190 million, $189 million budget, typically we have money left over because of your budget, and when you've got that, typically those run from at least $750,000 over to over $1 million, depending on the unallocated income. What the county administrator proposed was about a little over $600,000 to be set aside for the schools if that money is in fact available to come August, September. We did exactly that this past year. We had $540,000 left over, and we gave that to the schools, and they were able to meet some of their capital needs. So right now there's that potential. And I don't know how much the state budget affects y'all, but you know we don't have a state budget right now. In my understanding, they're not meeting until I believe the 11th, and my understanding we may not even have a state budget then. But if you take the Senate's budget, who has $16,000 versus the House budget that has an additional $300,000 for the schools, that hole could be almost filled, and you could be potentially talking about that the schools could address some other things. They had an ask budget of 2.3. They had an ideal budget of $7 million. So they would maybe potentially look at doing some of those things off of that ideal budget. One of the things that they've talked about doing and reinstating into their budget was in the more rural areas having basically mobile hotspots so the kids on the Chromebooks would be able to connect to the internet. And some of our poorest areas have the least internet access. And so that was one of the things that our board said was important. We can't tell the school board what to do, but we asked them if they would reconsider putting that in their budget, because one of our goals was to try to do some things about bringing internet access. I know that was a long answer, Steve.
Well, just to add, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. To go back to your original question, with the proposed budget from the county administrator, we are able to, and the superintendent has confirmed that we are able to give all of the teachers a 1.5% raise. We are also able to get all of the teachers that are on the wrong step, which a step represents a year of employment. So anybody that is on a wrong step due to a freeze of some sort will then be adjusted up to the correct step, reflecting their years of service in the schools. And so the budget, regardless of whether it's, you know, we voted last night to advertise a 1.5 cent tax increase, but regardless of whether that tax increase passes or not, our current budget will provide for all of those raises and those step adjustments throughout the budget.
Well, I know the teachers will really appreciate that, and I know it's...
They deserve it.
Yeah, but it's a lot for everybody, and I know we want to keep the top quality of teachers in this county, and that's one of the steps it is to keep on pace with other counties, and thank you very much as an ex-teacher.
Other questions?
I just want to say I appreciate, Chris, you and April coming. It means a lot, to me, and I'm sure council as well. But my question is, you mentioned that you're looking at, you said it's like a drop in the bucket, the $300,000 in sales tax that you didn't get, which is a gangbuster in our budget. Right. But how are you approaching this with the state?
We met with our delegates to ask them to investigate it. So we've talked with, we actually, Chris, myself, and Supervisor Biggs, I think it was just the three of us, went to Richmond to lobby We were lobbying on behalf of all of the county priorities,
Right.
and that was something that we specifically brought up with all three of our, it was Delegate Hurst, Delegate Rush.
And we did, and met with Senator Sudolon.
Okay, and we also talked, yeah, so we've met with all of them, we brought the problem to their attention. Delegate Hurst seemed particularly interested in moving forward on it. We haven't followed up since because we immediately went into budget season. And of course they were in session as well. So after the budget, or after I guess they reconvene on April 11th, we'll have plenty of opportunity to follow up and find out what they've done, if any progress has been made, to find out where that missing money is.
Because, and there's a couple other things, the state sales tax is up.
Yeah.
The money coming back to localities is down.
Right.
And so there is a theory that maybe when my wife orders from Amazon, the state is keeping that sales tax money because Amazon does have a presence here in Virginia, and it's not getting back to localities.
Right.
And I think each one of the senators and the delegate members were interested in this. But this, when we spoke to the town of Blacksburg, we said, well, this might be an issue that we can work on together, where we're saying this needs to be fixed. Because the allocation, I'm guessing that impact was about $150,000 in sales tax, because we get, I think, the first 50%, and then we divide based on school age between the county, Christiansburg, and Blacksburg. And so my guess is that impact for y'all is going to be about a decrease in the $150,000 ballpark.
It's a lot of money.
Well,
I mean, and it's just going to go, it's just going to increase if we don't try to identify where the leak is now.
Right, especially with a large transient population with students who are notorious for ordering online. If we can receive any of that benefit from them being here, but I'm sure it's nice you guys are building a coalition, and I'm sure if there's anything we can do to jump on board with that, we'd be happy to do it.
After y'all's budget session, maybe we can talk, and especially during the liaison breakfasts that we have, and figure out a way to go forward. And I think approaching the delegates when they're not in session before the budget is probably the better way to do it.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
I know that Hank asked for an increase in taxes to put police officers in every school, and I just want to tell you how I feel about that. I think the most important thing in the community is our kids, and I think it's a great idea, and I think it's worth the money.
Well, it is equivalent of about $670,000. And so one of the questions I had for Hank was, we provide about 19 sworn officers above the comp board, what we provide, what we're required to provide by the comp board.
Right.
I also pointed out to Giles County, they only have 26 sworn officers. They have 5 schools. Every one of their schools has a resource officer. Their sheriff has said this is a priority. Now, I know...
Yeah, I definitely want to address this as well.
I know that, and so...
I don't step on anybody's toes. I'm just and plus, we supply some police officers for schools.
And that's one of the things I mentioned last night, is seeing if we could work with the towns before we implement a tax increase, to reach out to the town of Blacksburg, reach out to y'all, see if there can be an agreement. I also am looking at facts, and there has been a tragedy at Sandy Hook, but elementary schools, for whatever reason, have not been targeted. And so before we make that kind of investment is to look at things. We've implemented a lot of different security measures in our schools, whether it be, if you visit a school, you have to buzz to get in. We have cops sync. And there's other measures that we've been taking that we don't like to talk about.
Sure.
But again, there's that difference, and our board is diverse.
So on the other side of that issue, and this was, you know, we met last night, and so this is very fresh in all of our minds because we've just spoken on it. And it was one of the factors in the decision to advertise the 1.5-cent tax increase, because several of us felt strongly about the necessity of having school resource officers in the schools, not just as an element of protection, but also as a building of a bridge between children and the law enforcement community, and building of relationships, and giving more resources to children in schools, elementary schools throughout the county. We do recognize that both the town of Christiansburg and the town of Blacksburg contribute significantly to school safety by providing school resource officers in middle and high schools, and then roving officers for the elementary schools. But our county schools don't have the same type of system, especially not in our elementary schools. And so when having a conversation about school safety and the price tag associated with school safety is very sensitive. It's a very difficult conversation to have. But I think when you put school resource officers in schools, you get more than just an extra layer of security for the children. You also get some relationship building, some resources for them. And so Chris and I are very different opinions on this, clearly. But it's a conversation that our board is going to continue to have as we move forward to adopting our budget. We have a public hearing on April the 5th, which is a Thursday night. Then we'll also have an opportunity for public comment the following Monday, April the 9th. And we're really asking at this point that citizens weigh in. What do people in the community, what do you guys, and ladies, sorry, but how do you guys feel about school resource officers in the schools? How do taxpayers feel about it? Is it something that that is worth a tax increase, or should we be looking at other options? So it's definitely an evolving conversation, and I appreciate your feedback into that conversation.
Do I say the figure somewhere today that it's an average of about $81,000 per school resource officer? I mean, it's a little stiff.
It includes their training, uniforms, all their equipment, vehicle.
Okay.
One of the things that I pointed out, again, looking at Giles, is a few things. One, their school board pays for those resource officers. That's something that's different. And same, and I had the chance to talk with the sheriff and Floyd, and their resource officers paid through the school board. But their officers over in Giles County have other jobs. So if you're in elementary school, there's not a lot of crime prevention. You're not arresting Johnny for stealing Cindy's candy because he's 9 years old. And so they have other duties that they're assigned, whether it's the radar calibrator. The other one is actually their firearms training officer. And so that's one of the things I encourage Hank to look at before we start looking at that steep price, because right now, if you're, let's say you have a $200,000 home or a $199,000 home, I think that's the average right now, but I'll go for $200,000. You're already paying $1,700 in taxes, over $1,700 in taxes. So, and now if you live in the towns, you're paying more, and that gets my attention. And I know, like I said,
just for perspective, 1.5 cents on a $200,000 home is $30 a year. So you're looking at about $2.50 a month to put a school resource officer in every school in the county.
So obviously, y'all, I know y'all never have any 4-3 votes because the mayor never gets.
You always agree, right?
But that's one of the things that we have on our board that's different than both towns. We have, in some ways, some, and April's mentioned geography. But there's different thoughts. You know, I've got Todd King, who's out in Reiner, who looks at things very different than April may with our board. And so you get a lot of different ideas and different perspectives. And so one of the things that we have to do is try to work through some of these issues, and sometimes we butt heads and don't agree.
Never?
Yeah.
Never, Chris.
You don't have any other questions?
No, I'm glad I can make it go smoother for everybody.
Thanks, Eric.
Now, we do appreciate you investing your time with us, and Chris, you've been especially good from the first time you were elected, and we don't think it goes unnoticed, and it makes some of these our adult conversations, as I call them, about things like the Joinder study and some of these things, some of these unpleasant topics, to know that I think the relationship building, the bridge building is absolutely essential. And for one person on council, I do think I operate from the mindset that if anything that's good for Montgomery County or Virginia Tech or the town of Blacksburg is also good for us. Yeah. Now, some things, may be an item or two that's not, but that's my default position, is if it's good for one, it's good for all. And but you being here means a whole lot.
A good thing too about you coming to talk to us on a yearly basis, I don't know what percentage of the people, but I'll say at least 50% of the people who live in Christiansburg think the town council runs the schools, you know? You know, why are you guys doing this, why are you not? You know, we don't know, we're not in the schools. So at least if you keep us a little up to date on what's going on, it really makes it better for us.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Raymond Yasa, under manager of BP Handy Mart, to present regarding cigarette tax. Raymond?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Mayor Barber and our town council for the help of bringing me here and presenting this presentation. Took a lot of time from me, but anything for my town, Christiansburg. So I'm going to show you how is the $4 cigarette tax in Christiansburg make an impact on the revenue of Christiansburg and how much money we are losing to other county and other cities beside us, that there is a lot of volume withdrawn from here. Okay, so there is a huge decline in the cigarette because of the current $4 carton cigarette tax that is imposed in Christiansburg, I think for at least 13 years now. So I did a data analysis from the town budget. So the town of Christiansburg actual budget on June 30th, 2011, it shows a cigarette tax revenue of $721,820. Versus on the booklet, I'm going to show you in the next two slides, the booklet for the budget summary fiscal year 2017-2018 on page 4, that is designed by the media, Christiansburg media, like 4 months ago. It shows only 500,000, so that means there is a loss of 221,820 in tax revenue in just 6 years. That's average of the cigarette loss per year, $37,000. So the town of Christiansburg every year with the $4 tax losing $37,000. And this will continue to decline because when the cigarette price go up, a lot of consumer looking for other venue to save money. So they go around to the county and go other cities beside us to buy their cigarette. So who's gonna get them back to the town of Christiansburg? All right, sorry. All right, so this is the town of Christiansburg actual budget on the 6/30. And if you see the line, I mark it right there, the cigarette tax. This is on the second column, the actual, 721,820. And that's from the books of Christiansburg on June 30th, 2011. And the next one, which is the booklet budget summary fiscal year, the one presented by town of Christiansburg media 4 months ago, and it showed to the left. I circled it right there, and sorry the picture is not quite big, but if you have the booklet, you will see that it's 500,000 revenue. All right, so I'm going to explain why this continues declining every year in the cigarette tax revenue. With a continuous increase every year of the cost of living, the consumer is looking for any method to save money, like every one of us. The majority of the consumer will be willing to drive a few yards outside of the Christiansburg tax limit to buy their carton $4 cheaper, zero tax, and their bag 40 cents cheaper. You go to the county, zero tax. You buy it, cheaper. Number two, many stores, and this is what helped the Christiansburg. Number two, many stores and tobacco shops are now using this opportunity and opening their stores just outside the town tax limit so they can grab as much cigarette volume as they can from the town of Christiansburg. So if you look, I'm not going to name any names, but if you look around, there's so many tobacco shops right outside of the border and just before Radford or before Blacksburg, so they're located on the county line, so they don't pay any tax and zero tax. And they grab a lot of volume and a lot of customers. They are willing to drive there to save the money. So this is one of the big issue. And maybe a big sign. I'm going to give you an example. There's a store right beside, a convenience store and gas station right beside Corning, and now it is shutting down, and it's only operating on gas only, but the store shutting down. Why? Because the cigarette there is $4 higher than Speedway right beside them. Speedway located on the Montgomery County, so he pays $0, and there's a tobacco shop right beside the Speedway. So both of those are killing that store. That's why he cannot survive at all, and he will not survive. But if the cigarette tax lower down, you will see lives there and going to be survive, bringing more customer opening, bringing more revenue to Christiansburg and tax and so on. So number 3, as a consequences for the point number 2 about both the town of Christiansburg and the store within the tax limit are suffering loss of volume and loss of customer as a result. In addition, the town is losing the cigarette tax on those lost sales. Because when you lose volume and the volume go down, you lose those taxes like I showed you on that volume. So you're losing from everywhere. And you're losing sales tax too, because the customer who enters the store is not going to buy cigarette only. You're going to buy gas, you're going to buy candy, chips, whatever for kids, you know. So you're losing all that because you go outside the county, you buy cigarette, buy all this stuff. So you're losing the sales tax as well. Alright, this is a concrete example. I did in-depth research across Virginia. So this concrete example, there are 56 towns and cities that have 0 tax imposed on cigarette tax across all Virginia. So the next 3 slides, so this is the first slide, give you a moment to look through. There is, in the cigarette like the gas, there is a federal tax, this is all over Virginia, and there is a state tax, there is almost 30 cents, you know, and $1.01 per carton, that's state federal. But if you look in the third column, the local rate, 0. So everything 0, they don't have any taxes. Even Richmond, I go back, Richmond here, they don't have Richmond, 0. All right. And if you go here, Dublin, I'm going to show you in this slide some stuff close to us. Dublin has 0. So a lot of people work in Dublin, they buy their cigarettes there, and when they come, you know, Floyd 0, and some other close by town and city. Sorry, the slide was so big, I have to cut it into 3. So, and some more towns here. All right, so give you another example that Christiansburg is not going to be the only one to reduce the taxes. In Benton in 2014, they lowered its cigarette tax rate. And I got you the link over there, whoever want to follow that link, and I distributed copy for all council members and the mayor. So they lowered the tax because they see the negative impact on their financial, and that a lot of customer and consumer are leaving, and a lot of stores complain the volume is dropping, and they're losing not only cigarette tax, they're losing sales tax and other taxes, you know. So the town of Christiansburg will not be the first town to lower its cigarette tax rate to gain more revenue. Many surrounding towns gain volumes that Christiansburg lost. So it is like mathematics. We lose anything here, that means somebody else gain that, you know. So it could be the city of Dublin, it could be Radford, it could be the county, you know. Any other city or county around us will gain our loss. So if we lost, for example, 100,000 carton per month, that is, you know, other locality gain that volume right away. So, and here is some close by cities. I give you an example that have a lower tax rate per carton. So you got Radford, this is $1.50 only, not $4. Narrows, only $1. Pearisburg, only $1. So this is just an example. Alright, so now the suggestion and recommendation I want to suggest to our mayor and the town council, because I love this town, not only because I have a business, I help the town in any other stuff, you know, in many other ways. So we want to help the town to increase the revenue and bring those lost consumer back, you know. So the suggestion is to reduce the cigarette tax in the new budget by $3. Just keep the tax at $1 per carton. So I don't want to eliminate it. We want to reduce it for $1 per carton. So go down $3, right? Now we try this project for 2 to 3 years. Because the first year you're not going to see the impact because everybody mind segmented that town of Christiansburg have tax. By the time the word of mouth and advertising and all that will take at least 6 months. So we're going to start to kick in the saving on the second 6 months of the first year. So that's why we give it 2 to 3 years to see the fruits and to see the increase, you know. So number 3, how are we going to do that? It's very easy. So we're going to monitor and compare the following at the end of each year. So number 1, we're going to monitor the cigarette tax revenue. Of course, the first year we're going to go down because, like I said, you know, a lot of customer doesn't know yet that we reduce our taxes, but we're going to see fruits in the second or the third year, and it start to go back up. Although you charge $1 per carton, but the volume will go up. We'll compensate that. This is item number 1. Item number 2, we should monitor the fast food tax revenue from any store that sells cigarettes. For example, my store just opened a grill like a couple of months ago, you know. When I get more customers to buy cigarette, they come see the food, they're gonna buy food. So the sales tax, what's happened, gonna go up. They're gonna buy other item, buy you know, beer, drinks, snack, whatever, sales tax go up. So, you know, so you lose little bit in cigarette, but compensated in other stuff. So we monitor that, and that's easy done by Stacy. She can monitor that because she is responsible for fast food in the town. Any store, convenience store that sells fast food, and make a comparison year by year. And number 3, the sales tax revenue from any store that sells cigarette. So she also can do the comparison, any store that sells cigarette, and do the sales tax, the revenue coming from sales tax from that store, you know, for the first 3 years. And we do the comparison. Because like I said, the customer will buy fast food, so fast food go up, the tax on fast food and the sales tax will go up. So the end result, what's happened? It will be over the cigarette tax revenues that we are collecting right now. Because this year is 500. Next year we're going to lose another 40,000. So we're going to be 460, and it's going to keep declining if we didn't take a move immediately and right now. All right, so it is the time to bring those lost volume back to the beloved town of Christiansburg. Any questions?
Raymond, do you have a figure for what the town of Blacksburg charges cigarette tax? I didn't see it.
$3, sir.
How many?
$3.
$3.
I have it, but you know, I didn't have it in here, but you know,
okay.
Yeah, $3.
So would we not be better off just to drop our cigarette tax altogether?
You will be better off, of course, if you make it 0. Hey, fantastic! If you make it 0 from tomorrow, I bet you anything. You know, the town of Christiansburg will be booming. So you know, but I don't want to push too much, like you know,
you and the other cigarette salespeople in town are going to guarantee us that difference. So if we're short 400,000, you and your boys are going to kick in.
Of course. I guarantee you. Okay, I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I know most of the council members. They are my friends. I know the mayor. I know the town manager. I'm a successful businessman. I started 17 years ago, and I'm a computer engineer as well. I used to work in Corning. So I integrate all that knowledge within my business, okay? I've been featured in 3 national US business magazines. You know, I was doing a business show on the TV for 3 years, you know. I did a lot of stuff. So I did a lot of success, a lot of companies. They have RGR rep here, but he's not supposed to talk but he attending. You know, from RGR company, it is Philip Morris and RGR, which they have Camel, Palmal, American Spirit, and all that. When he sent to his boss, he said you have to go and attend, and you know. But anyway, I helped other companies in a lot of stuff, like Philip Morris back in 2003 or 2004. They introduced 3-pack deal because they saw it in my store at that time, and maybe 6 months after they started to implement that, you know. So I helped Nelson, you know, everybody know Nelson, maybe Nelson Company Scanning. I do consulting with them and do data with them and stuff like that. So like I said, I don't want to talk too much, but I do a lot of stuff in the community. I do a lot of stuff with our local enforcement and the federal enforcement as well about fraud, but I cannot go into details, so a lot of stuff. Some of you maybe know. I lobbied with the United States Senate and Congress for 3 years. And when you come to the store, you can see some of the photo, but you know, like, you know, I do a lot of other stuff, but I'm here only for cigarette tax, and I want to guarantee the mayor. I don't want to say 100% because nothing guarantees 100%. I guarantee you at least 90% you will see the fruits that's coming to the town of Christiansburg if you drop the tax $1 or $0. I guarantee the fruits.
Do you think any of this decrease over the years has anything to do with the trend that people just aren't smoking as much anymore?
Okay, that's a good question because I think Mr. Harper asked me this question last time. Okay, the people, what they do, the one who quit smoking less than 5%. Okay, what they do, they quit smoking, they don't quit completely. They go to vape, they smoke vape, right? And after they smoke vape, they said no, we try something else, you know. And after that, maybe 3% will quit completely and 2% come back to cigarette, you know. And maybe the 3% within the first year, maybe 1% will come back. So overall, every 100, you might be 2% quitting, actual quitting. Okay. It will not affect this majority and huge volume, you know, on the cigarette. And I remember for town of Christiansburg in 2003 or 4, I don't remember the exact year, it went up $1. Then the second year, it went up $2, and the third year went up $1. It was a big hit. It was a big hit. Yeah, big hit for everybody, not only me, like all the stores, because that's including Kroger, Food Line, Cheats, Speedway, everybody within the town of Christiansburg, not only me. So I don't represent them, but I represent the industry. So. Okay.
Guys, any other comments, questions?
Yeah, one comment.
Yeah. Sure.
Raymond, you've made a very strong case for yourself. Mr. Bishop advocated. You have a lot of, well, I think I'll be safe and say you have, there's a lot of council members that think a lot of you. And you know, the example you set for your industry in our town is really good because you are vested in our community. But you've made a very strong case here. Mr. Showalter and I were about ready to present a draft budget, and we knew that you were presenting tonight, so I just want to tell you that you've made a very good case, a very sound case that we need to consider, and we're just starting that process now. But and the downward trend is very minor compared to the bigger picture. And I mean, I don't know what we're going to do with this, but you've made a very strong case, and I think that's worthy of our consideration.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I would like to say this too. I think you did an excellent presentation, and what Brad has just said is true. Only thing, I'm just throwing this out. You know, I said a few minutes ago that I was a school teacher for over 30 years, and we just hate to see kids smoking. You know, just for the cancer and the ill effects that it'll have on it. And that's why I have never really fought this increase in the tax relief, because maybe you're going to come back and say, well, they can go over Montgomery County and buy cheaper. But if they make it harder for Christiansburg people to buy it, maybe it would be a little bit of a fallback not to do that. And that's my feeling here. I'm just throwing that out.
Thanks,
but I agree with everything that you said, though.
Thanks. Anybody else?
I do. You had mentioned how, one of the convenience stores had closed. Do you feel that the vape shops have an unfair advantage, because the rates are different between cigarettes and vaping? Do you feel that that also contributes to stores closing?
Not the vape, because convenience store, this store is not only one owner, take it and shut down. It used to be A+, and then Circle K, and then another company, like 3-4 companies. They cannot survive, and they are huge companies, they have deep pocket, much more than me, right? So, and still cannot survive. Why? Because you have the store right here, Corning here, the store here, and you have Speedway here, and the tobacco shop here. And the Speedway and the tobacco shop, those two stores are $4 less per carton and 40 cents per bag. So who's gonna enter this store and pay 40 cents more or $4 more? It's right beside each other, Every one of us want to save, right? Including me. So I would go to the cheapest store, right? So it's not because of the vape shop, not because this store, the cigarette store is selling, or the tobacco shop selling vape and cigarette, but because of the cigarette that impacted You know that because the cigarette, it's one, or tobacco sales is one of the businesses in convenience store that makes the convenience store survive or not. You know, so if you have impact like that, they cannot survive no matter what they do. And they did actually put from their pocket. I've been offered this store twice, for me to buy it. I declined it because I know the deal. I know what I cannot survive there either. Max 6 months or less than that, because of the cigarette tax and because my competitor are beside me. So if you have, I give you an example. If you have, for your example, your business, right here, and the business beside you have $4 cheaper and 40 cents cheaper per whatever carton or printing or whatever. So where is it gonna go? To the neighbor, right? To the next door neighbor to save money. And yeah, it's the same exact quality, the same exact thing because it's made by Philip Morris or RGR. It's not different brand, the same cigarette, same thing. So.
I'm familiar with that one because I drive by that every day to work, and
Right.
I've wondered why that store didn't, with all the different turnovers. I was wondering, but I think that logically that makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I want to thank you for coming. Not only bringing us, I'm saying, use the word a problem, but main thing for me, what they say, possible solution. Very few people do that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me add one thing. On that.
Sure.
The presentation was great. I like how you think. I think it makes sense. Are you going to use your location sign to help get the word out?
Of course. I am a chief marketer. Everybody knows me as chief marketer.
Okay.
The new extreme marketing. The chief sister knows that too.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
God bless you.
I wanted to point out to council that Chris Sanchez was supposed to be here tonight from Christiansburg Institute. He had another commitment come up, so we're going to reschedule him later. Next we have Treasurer Finance Director Val Twitty to present regarding the proposed fiscal year budget 2018-2019. And let me make sure the council understands she is presenting to us. This is not a question and answer period. We're going to have a work session. We'll set it tonight on the budget. This is just for her to give you reading instructions or call things to your attention.
Executive overview.
It is a quick overview.
Sorry, my budget tried to eat my grace. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try and, had a lot of presentations tonight. It's been a long meeting for all of us, so I'll try and keep this brief. But at the same time, I do want to give you an understanding of how to look at the document and what's in it, what's new, what's old, and what you should be looking for in the document itself. So first of all, we're just going to go over the general layout. We'll talk about the highlights, what the revenue numbers look like, what the expenditures numbers look like, the 5-year forecast and what some of the assumptions are along with that 5-year forecast. We're going to have Wayne will be presenting on capital projects, Joe will be presenting on rescue, and Jim, somewhere, he was here, Jim Lansing, there he is. He's hiding in the corner. Is going to present on public works, and then we'll do the 5-year forecast, or 5-year forecast. So, how the budget comes together is basically in December we put out a call and templates and formats to the directors to make their requests not only for their operational funds, but for new staffing and for capital equipment. Those are all reviewed, compiled, and put together, and then we make cuts and changes and additions and deletions as we think are appropriate to meet the visions and the goals of the town and to meet operation plans such as those laid out in Destination 2022. So the document itself, you're going to notice this year has some tabs on it, which I've already in 3 days found these tabs to be wonderful. Can't figure out why I didn't do it before. So the very first page after the cover page is the table of contents. And on that table of contents, it references you not only to a tab, but to the page number for each of the items in the document. So the budget document starts out with the big picture, big numbers without a lot of detail. And then as it goes down, it just gets broader and broader and broader with more and more detail. Okay? So then under tab 1, you have the letter from Randy and myself about the budget. It talks about all of the different changes, revenue increases, revenue projections, expenditure changes that are over and above our normal operations, kind of what we do every year. This is our operating budget, and what do we want in addition to that, what's changing with that budget, where are the increases coming from, and we'll kind of go through that in that letter in the front. So that also covers any fee increases, tax increases, or anything like that that might be proposed. It's always summarized in that letter in the very beginning of the budget document. Under tab 2, you get to, these are the big grand numbers of, here's the total revenue for the general fund, here's the total expenditures for the general fund, here's what we have for capital, here's what we have for all of our other revenue sources, and what the general fund has to support of the other programs and enterprises. So it starts with Exhibit 1, and it gives you all that summary of stuff. And then the next page, we have, and this is kind of the summary. I'm sorry I can't seem to make this big enough to read, but it kind of goes over general fund revenue expected for this year. We're going to start with a 17.9 fund balance. General fund revenue is projected to be 29.3 million, expenses of 25.7, leaving 3.6 to go to capital. Then 2 million of that's going to capital. Another 1.5 will go to support some of our other funds. 20,000 to some of our grant program support. Capital projects is 3.2 million. Water projects 1.3. Stormwater just under $1 million. So total support funds are 5.7. We'll reduce our fund balance by 4.3 for capital. We'll put another $925,000 into assigned fund balances. Those are the street reserves, park reserves, rescue reserve, fire truck reserve, emergency funds, and those are all delineated within the budget and also in that executive letter. That'll leave us with an ending fund balance of $12.8 million. Our required reserve per our policy is $12.15 million. So we're above our target on that. And following that, you just have a real quick chart of the revenues. This is just one way of taking a look at where the big pieces of the pie are in terms of revenue. It gives you a little better perspective of where we are. And cigarette tax revenue is $500,000. Oh. I know you were straining to see that number, so I just thought so that's kind of the big pie. That's the next page in the budget. And then you have where the money goes, where do we spend it all, and on what departments and what funding. It's just kind of a quick view for you to get a quick eye view of what's going on. So then as we start diving deeper into the budget, under tab 2, you have Exhibit 2, which is pages 35 to 38. That gives you a detailed list of all of the capital items. It's trucks and tractors and backhoes and lawnmowers and all of those kinds of things, as well as our major capital projects, like the North Franklin Street Corridor, UV light, the UV system for the treatment plant, and there's a number of really large projects which we do highlight those in the executive summary up front as well, but there's a detail of those items in that exhibit. And then under tab 3, you have the summary of all of our revenue. So that's kind of the condensed summary of all the revenue numbers, and then the exhibit right behind that is all the detail. It's the line-by-line numbers of revenue. And then under tab 4, we have the departmental program expenditures. Again, it's the condensed form for each department. And then you move down through that, and it gives you the more detailed look of all of those. Under tab 5, we have Exhibit 6, which is the detail of the community services report, which We all did the survey on here not too long ago, and the community development programs, and then all the detailed budgets. And then lastly, under there, we have our long-term debt schedule. And then the very last tab, which is tab 6, is our 5-year forecast. And we'll talk briefly about that at the end. And with that, Mr. Jim, wait a minute, Jim, you're not supposed to be there. Wayne, go. Sorry, Wayne.
Okay.
You apparently got moved. There, sorry, moved you guys around. We'll let Jim go first if he doesn't mind since he's here. Sorry, got you guys switched around.
Good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. I'm here to talk and discuss a little bit about our capital projects and capital equipment portion of the public work, portion of the town budget from the public works department.
Yep, press it. There you go.
Okay. This is our capital equipment that was in the proposed budget for the general fund. We use industry standard and operational needs when we select these. We have 2 service dump trucks, a mini excavator and trailer, 2 dump bodies for our dump trucks, a pickup truck, a service van, and a hydraulic vehicle lift. The enterprise fund capital equipment is a backhoe, a sewer cleaning machine, an air compressor, a golf cart, and a pickup truck. Other things in our budget, this is kind of an update on funding that we got approved last year. It started some of these projects and where they're at and what we're using the funding for this coming year to move the project forward. Our facility assessment project, we did request for proposals in December. We interviewed firms in March and currently are in negotiations with the firm. The scope of work and project phasing will be complete by the end of this fiscal year. The data collection and assessment will begin at the beginning of this fiscal year and continue throughout FY 2019. The big one in there is our curbside recycling, as everybody's aware of. We went through the process with the RFP in October, interviewed firms in January, and contracted awarded in March. Curbside will start July 1st, 2018, which we're very excited about.
And that's been added to the budget, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On the enterprise side, we have a couple of projects moving forward next year, and the status of those were, the big one was a UV upgrade for the wastewater treatment. The design and installation is about 75% complete now. The wastewater treatment plant will be 100% by the end of this fiscal year. The next phase will be the wastewater lift stations, upgrading them, and the installation will begin in FY 2019. The other is a real big one for the wastewater treatment process. It's the wastewater UV disinfection system. We requested request for proposals in December. Firms were interviewed in February 2018, and the contract was awarded in March 2018. Design should be complete by the end of this fiscal year, with construction to begin in FY 19. And that concludes my portion. I think that's your something.
On the side of the... My slides got a little goofy up here. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I'm going to skip back over to these here real quick. I think, Jim, you got inserted in the wrong part of my budget this afternoon, my presentation. So the highlights of the revenue numbers were, there's roughly, we're looking at about a 4% increase in our revenue numbers. We have no tax increase proposed, no debt proposed for this year. The water and sewer rate increases are proposed and included in the rate tables on page 5. There's a $1 increase in the sewer rate and a $1 increase in the water rate. And then, of course, the recycling upcharge on the garbage fee of $5 per month that you approved last month. On the expenditure side, we had requests for staff of 6 new positions, only 3 of which are included in this draft, which will bring our total full-time employee count to 250. The new positions that are added is 1 EMS supervisor and 2 EMS providers to move from 32-hour part-time to full-time positions. Those positions are being funded from the Revenue Recovery Fund. There's also a 2% merit pool included and a 1% in COLA increase for employees. We have made significant strides in making a decrease in the portion of employee contribution to health care plan for the plus ones and for families. And we'll share those numbers with you when we have a work session on the budget. But we want you to see those numbers and make some decisions on that before we make those numbers well known. But it's been a huge effort that we've made to get to these numbers, and they are worked into the budget now. So there's also about $20.2 million in capital construction projects. About $10.9 million of it is grant funded. 1.2 is coming from stormwater fees, and the remainder is supported with town funds and water and sewer revenues. Also included in this budget are the construction of the wayfinding sign, the initiation of the curbside recycling, the reduced cost of health care for employees. We've included town council in the insurance programs and wage increases for town council similar to that of employees, so it's either 1%, 2%. We've also included an employee wage and compensation study, a portable skating rink and mobile stage for special events, particularly in downtown. The rink would initially be located down on Hickok Street. There's also funds in the budget for upgrading the phone systems for both the police department and the wastewater treatment plant. Now, Wayne.
Good evening, Mayor Barber, members of council. It's my pleasure to present to you capital projects that are managed by the engineering department in the areas of transportation, stormwater, water distribution, and wastewater collection. We have about 25 projects. I'm going to give you a brief description. They're in different phases, from planning, design, right-of-way, construction being planned, and construction underway right now. Starting with transportation, I'll start with the capital paving program. Includes engineering construction for the reconstruction of John Lumley Lane, repairs to Dunlap Drive and Providence Boulevard. There's primary extension paving, that's grant money to pave Roanoke Street, and general fund funding for the pavement management program in our annual paving program. We will have paving starting here soon to be completed by the end of June. Bids are due into this week for paving of North Franklin Street from Independence to Depot, and from paving a short section of Roanoke Street out here to Cracker Barrel, and then paving of Cambridge Street from North Franklin to the railroad tracks. Second is Kristen Mill Road rail grade crossing project. It's construction of grade crossing improvements to improve safety and allow for application of the whistle ban at that crossing once complete. Palm Branch intersection project is construction of access management and signal improvements at Palm Branch Road to improve safety along that corridor. The North Franklin Cambria interchange improvements. This is improvements to the Cambria North Franklin intersection, realignment of that intersection. Corridor improvements include curb and gutter, sidewalk, lighting, and a new traffic signal at the proposed connector road near Food Line. Power road signal. This is in design money. We have requested funding from VDOT, but we have money in for design of a new signal at that intersection. Huckleberry Trail Phase 3, extension of 10-foot wide asphalt trail from Food Line to Independence Boulevard, and then down Independence Boulevard to Gold Leaf Drive. Depot Park Trail extension, design money to design the trail from Mill Lane to the Depot Park Trail. That will include a bridge over the creek to the Aquatic Center and a connection up to the Kroger parking lot. The Arbor Drive Sidewalk Project, extension of sidewalk along Arbor Drive from Peppers Ferry Road down around to North Franklin Street. This is to support our businesses, our hotels, and marketplace redevelopment. That's a plus right there. Quinn Stewart Boulevard signal, long-awaited signal that's under construction. It's been bid, under construction currently. Roanoke Street sidewalk, extension of sidewalk along Roanoke Street from Robert Street to the County Government Center. The Huckleberry Trailhead, design money for trail extension from Independence Boulevard to Scattergood Drive. Improvements will include a small parking lot involving partnership with the Christiansburg Institute. VDOT funding has been requested for this project. The Connector Road, this is initial planning and design support in conjunction with Smart Scale funding currently underway right now. We will include in that RFP for proposal access to the future park and overall design of the road from Peppers Ferry, Route 114 to North Franklin Street. Our retaining wall program, engineering and construction money. We are currently studying our wall systems around town, determining ownership, and we are going to initiate that program this coming year in terms of construction. The Truman Wilson property development, this is, we're going to issue a request for proposal, an RFP for engineering services in support of the Council's direction given us on this project. Moving to water and wastewater. Start with the Craig Mountain and Edgewood pump stations. Craig Mountain pump station is upgrade of the pumping system and controls. And the Edgewood pump station, we are in the process of working on a preliminary engineering report to investigate other options to provide water service to that area. Buffalo tank rehabilitation, that's the painting of the interior and exterior of the water storage tank in the Harkrader Sports Complex. We have Cambria improvements, phase 1A, very small expenditure, but high dividends. This will provide a redundant and second feed to the Cambria water system that provides much improved fire flows in that Cambria area. Under wastewater projects, College Street rehabilitation, phase 1, 2, and 3. This replaces and upgrades the sewer system from Crab Creek through Depot Park to North Franklin onto Hickok Street, and also includes replacement of a section of sewer line on Flieger Street between 1st and 2nd. That's problematic. Silver Lake Interceptor project, we have money in there to complete the design and acquire easements through the former Meadows Golf Course property. This project replaces a aged and stressed pump station there on Silver Lake. Arrowhead Sanitary Sewer Engineering Study, currently underway. This study continues to identify I&I, which is inflow and infiltration issues in the Arrowhead subdivision area, and also money in there to make field repairs identified as part of the study. Stormwater projects, include the Cambria-Rigby Ellet Stone Drain improvements, the second phase, starting at Church Street, extending up to King Street. It reduces local flooding and street flooding in that neighborhood. Hans Meadow drainage improvements extends pipe system along Hans Meadow Drive to address property and street flooding in that neighborhood. North Franklin Street drainage improvements extends stone drain system along North Franklin Street, addressing property and flooding along North Franklin Street. In the Ideal Cabinet area, Town Branch stream restoration, currently under construction. That'll be finishing up early in next year's budget. And if that completes the stream restoration through the skate park and Depot Park, and then Industrial Park stormwater management initiates design of the stormwater management basin expansion needed to address full build out of the Christiansburg Industrial Park. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you this evening. Got some pretty interesting information. Val told me I had about 30 minutes, give or take.
Yeah, right.
Very, very brief. And actually, I do get to come present to you in about a month for my department presentation, so I really cut this down for tonight. Our focus remains excellent in patient care. I have come to you since I started 7 years ago and would say things like we would look to high-performance EMS agencies to take their ideas and incorporate them. Well, I will tell you, in terms of our heart care in this town, we are a high-performance EMS agency. There's no more duplicating others. We are the standard setters for cardiac care in this region, and it's because the support town council has given us some fantastic folks that we have as providers and leaders at our agency. So that's a teaser, and we'll talk a little bit more about those awards next month. So the trends that we're seeing, we are a busy agency. Those of you that have scanners or radios, hear the calls go out. As I was coming into this meeting, we had 3 calls at the same time. So we are a very busy agency. That call volume has continued to increase. We're expecting 4,800 to 5,000 calls this year in calendar year 2018. We do our call volume by calendar year. And the increasing complexity of EMS certification. I've mentioned before, EMS has transitioned from scoop and run to a very high-tech integrated healthcare partner. We're doing ultrasounds in the trucks. We're doing invasive procedures. We're doing things that really make a positive impact on patient outcomes. It's really some complex medical interventions and things that we do. So all these things are trends that we see going over the next couple of years. We are the highest call volume EMS agency in Montgomery County. So out of the 5 rescue agencies, we run on average 50 to 52% of all the rescue calls that are dispatched in Montgomery County. So we are the big provider of EMS services in the county. We have a robust volunteer membership. We have about 80 volunteer members. I came on board about 7 years ago, and that number has seen a slight increase, and we hope over the next year or two to see a significant increase in that volunteer membership. We have 11 part-time staff, and I'll talk about both these groups really briefly. So to focus on volunteers, we have a strong emphasis on volunteerism. I have a 3-decade background as a volunteer EMS provider before I started here in Christiansburg. I'm very protective of the volunteer program we have here, and I think I've put in a really good structure to support and enhance volunteerism. We have a strong group of volunteer officers, and we recognized last year that in order to reach a goal of increasing that 80 number to maybe perhaps 100, we needed to have a volunteer officer who does nothing but volunteer recruiting. So we created that position. She took office January 1, and she's already started out with a bang, doing a really good job. Her sole focus is networking with other agencies, networking with the schools, using social media, but meeting those objectives of bringing on new volunteers. And she has scheduled quarterly volunteer orientation weekends. We used to call them recruit academies, but people thought we were going to make them do push-ups, so we stopped calling it that. But quarterly volunteer orientation weekends, we onboard new members in cohorts to kind of build that family esprit de corps right off the bat. So really robust program. Our employee staffing, we have, of our part-time staff, we have 2 of what we used to call 32-hour staff. So they have a fairly regular schedule, and they get health insurance benefits already. We have 2 of those, and 9 flex timers. Originally, we only covered Monday through Friday from 6A to 6P. We've been doing this since about 2013. But in the last year or so, we've had to add in some weekend and evening coverage. We pretty much have a staff member every weekend now, every Saturday, Sunday, during the daylight hours, and a lot of weekend and evenings. We have advanced life support providers as staff members. One of the problems that we have in staffing with the flex time staff members is we have what we call leftover availability. And most of our flex time employees work full-time for another agency. They work for Carillion, they work for Roanoke City, Roanoke County, REMC. That is their full-time commitment, and so we can only get from them what is left over. And the problem we have in scheduling, as we look each month, the volunteer officer gives us the coverage availability of the volunteers, and we try to mesh it with the staff. There's a lot of times there's not the availability, it's a mismatch. So to answer that, the first thing we did was utilize the 32-hour positions. We created those a couple years ago. And originally that was a pretty competitive position in this region. The 32-hour position, although it wasn't really full-time, it offered insurance, which is a big plus, and it had the leave associated with it. Those positions have changed now where we're not allowed to offer leave time. They're not as advantageous to a person, and we know that we're not going to keep the people that are in those positions, nor will we be able to recruit people into them because it's not a competitive position anymore. So a little bit about what this is going to help us with. As I mentioned, needing to retain these employees is really the key reason for transitioning the 32-hour staff to full-time. This will allow us to make the position more desirable, allow us to keep the incumbents, and one of the benefits of our staff that we've always touted is they provide us continuity and experience. We recruit experienced providers to be our staff employees. And so that's a buffer against, we hire people who have no EMS background to come in as a volunteer, and we put them through the EMT class and they become good providers, but the staff help us provide that buffer and that continuity. So it's a really good structure. Our strategic plan is to have a very lean core staff. So we're not coming to you saying, hey, we want to transition to a career agency. That's not what I was hired to do, and it's against my philosophy. I'm a very big advocate for volunteerism, so I don't want you to think that Joe is trying to transition us to a career system. I heard that loud and clear when I talked to the committees before, and that's not what I want to do at all. But I would be remiss if I didn't come to you and say, in order to make sure I can get the trucks out the door when somebody's having a medical emergency, here's our need. But we try to keep it very, very lean, and that's really important. So that the transition from 32 hours to full-time staff would allow us to keep those 2 folks in, and if they should move on, it makes the position very desirable in terms of refilling it. The cost for transitioning those current employees to full-time, the incremental cost, because we're already paying their wages at 32 hours, is for both of them $7,700. It's a tiny cost with a huge benefit to our agency. And the money comes from revenue recovery. So one of the things I was tasked to do when I got hired was to implement your vision to do revenue recovery, and that's been incredibly successful, and it allows us to help keep that staffing level. The other request is for an EMS supervisor. Currently, we have a chief and a deputy chief, and we have to take call, and it's kind of cumbersome, and we have pretty busy daylight schedules to have us functional and able to cover weekend and evening shifts. And during the snowstorm, I was the EMS supervisor. So I was kind of worthless. Some people say that anyhow, but I was kind of worthless on Monday. I was out 22 hours on Saturday as the EMS supervisor. So this position is analogous to a shift lieutenant in the police department, a watch commander. Somebody whose job it is to coordinate the resources, be the emergency go-to for infection control issues, needle sticks, employee conflicts. We currently have wage staff on the weekends who currently do not have a staff supervisor. And so this position helps fill that. It also helps, in terms of my position, spread it out so we have 24/7 coverage of a staff supervisor. So we think it's really important. Again, this position entirely funded through revenue recovery. There's no impact for either of these on the general fund.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Val, are you done?
What?
Very good.
Wow, where'd you go? This is where your slides got in here, Joy. Okay, last but not least, just briefly talk about the 5-year forecast and what it includes and doesn't include. It's under the last tab 6 of your budget tonight. It includes moderate growth for inflation of about 2% and potentially a tax increase in 2021 to help with funding some of the aging infrastructure in streets and roads. The proposed water and sewer increases that are in the 2019 budget are included in the forecast, as well as increases in 20 through 23. That was also a part of the rate study. We don't figure on program growth or expansion in this budget in terms of operations that are not already programs that are in operation as of this current year budget being presented. Design and engineering costs for Tim and Wilson property are included in the forecast, and construction build-out and financing are included in the capital outlay forecast. However, we have not worked in the operational costs into that forecast yet, because we don't know what the timeline would be for that to go operational for sure. So we haven't included any of that in the forecast. It also assumes that we'll continue to receive grants and capital funding for a number of street, trail, and stormwater projects, that we will continue to set aside funds for specific future projects, both designated and assigned reserves, and that we will need to incur debt to fund the capital water and sewer projects, as well as development of the Truman Wilson property down the line. So you will see in the forecast some debt as terms of needs of funding for those projects going forward. So that's kind of a summary of that. So next steps, where are we at? We have a proposed budget for you to start to review. So we need to set a budget work session with the council, and I have sessions, whatever we determine we need to have. I'd like to set those in early April. We need to set a public hearing for the water and sewer rate increases sometime in April. We need to set the draft. So after the work sessions, if there's changes to this draft and other things that need to be added, deleted, or whatever, once that draft is agreed upon by the council, then we will put that out for public hearing. We hope to do that by late April. Then we'll set a public hearing on the budget in early May and hopefully approve the budget at the end of May. And Val would be most happy if we approved it by the end of May, because normally it's like June 15th. I have high goals. Thank you very much. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call, stop by the office. I'll more than happy to explain anything you need.
We're going to set the work session later and some ground rules on it. Thank you, Val. David, I'm going to skip you for 1 minute. I need to get some high school kids out of here.
Yeah.
We have Christiansburg High School government students working with town council.
You guys wake up now.
Wake up now.
I'm sorry, folks, that y'all are here so late.
Do you need a note from your mayor to your parents?
We'll make sure that this doesn't happen again. Are y'all awake?
How much money?
If you introduce yourselves.
I'm David Robbins, I'm a sophomore at Christiansburg High School.
Okay, and what's your role with the government there?
I am a grade representative for my grade.
Okay.
I'm the only one in my grade that does this.
Okay. Well, you're a leader.
What year are you again?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay.
Okay, good deal.
And I'm Elena, and I'm a junior at Christiansburg, and I'm the junior class representative.
Good deal. Thank you. And what's y'all's plans when you finish high school? Do you know yet?
Not really, no.
No.
I'm joining the Army Reserve
Oh, good for
next
you.
year, so I'll be off in boot camp this time next year.
Well, that's awesome. Good for you. We contacted your school, and we're going to come up there, Mr. Showalter and myself, and the mayor, I think, is coming too. We're going to talk to y'all about y'all working with us for a day, not necessarily us, but the town staff, the department heads, these folks right here, these folks all up here, you know, so we'll be up there soon to talk to y'all about that. That'll be neat, yeah. It'll be fun.
Very good.
What kind of project have y'all had lately that you're working on right now? Something community project or something?
Nothing really of late because our leader for student government has been a little preoccupied with debate and classes with all these delays and closings because the weather's been more than a little hectic.
Okay, got you covered, got you covered. So the news I got's not true, huh? No, I'm just teasing. No. Okay, you got any questions for us?
Okay.
No? And again, I'm sorry y'all were so late. We'll try to fix that next time.
They actually had a couple things they want to tell us that's going on at the high school. So if you guys could wrap it up with just those few items, they were pretty interesting.
Okay.
This year has been the first year for our boys and girls lacrosse team, and their first game they whooped William Fleming. And on the boys team, I think his name is Matthew Davidson, had the VHSL record for goals in the game.
Yes, he did.
10.
That was on Twitter.
What was the whooping score?
19-7 for both of them, I think.
Oh, good deal. Well, you're right, they did whoop them. Yeah. Good deal.
Our Black Student Awareness Club has recently attended a social justice convention over at Virginia Tech. That was last week, I think. It's Friday. Yeah, it was Friday.
So 2 weeks ago, Christiansburg High School participated in the National Student Walkout. We had about, I would say 300 to 400 students. We had a banner that all the kids signed there, and we had index cards where you could send notes, and both of those were sent off to the students at Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. It's a big turnout.
That's awesome. Really awesome. I have to ask you, you heard what we talked about a while ago with the county possibly needing more funds to put a police officer in your school.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? They have one.
They already have one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But I mean, how you feel about
me personally?
Having him there? Yeah.
I don't think our schools are very. I wouldn't say they're not safe, but I think security could definitely be improved, and I think a lot of the students at Christiansburg High School feel the same way.
Okay. In what way?
I know the gentleman mentioned the call-in system that we have, but they don't enforce that at all. Yeah. They just press and they're like, okay, come on in. They don't really enforce the whole purpose of it. The mobile units outside, I have several classes out there, and I find them to be pretty unsafe just because a lot of the teachers during especially the warm weather, keep the door propped open, and anybody from the outside could come up and walk in there, and they're not locked or anything. And so I'm not necessarily saying that Christiansburg High School is an unsafe place, but it could definitely improve.
Okay, thank you. And yours, opinion?
With the SRO, I mean, I've interacted with him a couple times. He's a really nice guy, and I think that what the lady was saying earlier about how building a relationship, I think that's pretty important with our law enforcement. Safety-wise, I mean, it's one man for that entire school. I mean, he's not going to be able to just rapidly go around places. So it could be back in deep in the high school. That could be something over near the gym on the other side of the school. I mean, he's not going to be able to do much. So she's right. We could improve on security with the mobile units and the calling system and some other stuff, but yeah.
And we would appreciate you guys writing up something for us and what you think would help. Suggestions, if you wouldn't mind.
For me, I think having metal detectors in front of all the entrances at the school would be a huge help. I also think because I know Pulaski County High School did this, they had scan cards where just the students, teachers, and the parents of the students had them, so if you weren't affiliated with the school, you weren't allowed access in there. Gotcha. Unless you were given one of those, and I understand the budget and the prices for those things comes into play, but those are what come to mind.
Okay.
I'd like to see it.
Great, that's awesome. We appreciate your feedback. And again, we're sorry you had to stay so long.
It's okay.
We'll do better.
Yeah.
Won't we, Randy? Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Y'all free to go anytime you want to come in.
Run.
Don't feel bad. The wrestlers bailed on us.
You may not want to. HR's up next.
That's right.
Yeah, but y'all got it.
So next we have Dave Bronstadt, who is our HR director, going to talk about his department.
Mayor, Council, thanks for having me tonight. I promise to keep this to about 7 minutes. I'll gladly take any comments or questions afterwards. This is a snapshot or reflection of our calendar year 2017. I want to kind of introduce the heart and backbone of HR, really, both April Overby and Diana Pace. So April, if you stand up for a brief moment. April was hired in 2014 as Associates in Business Administration. Last year, earned her SHRM Certified Professional Certification. She has 7 years of HR with Richfield Retirement Community, and she is superb. She's our generalist, and she is superb at organizing our recruiting and our onboarding of our full and part-time staff. Diana's our benefits and HRIS's Human Resource Information Systems Specialist. She was hired less than 6 months ago. She's a BA in psychology and is working on an MA in Human Service Counseling and Life Coaching from Liberty University. She has 2 years of experience from New River Valley Community Services in HR, and our system that we use, our platform, is called Great Plains. And we're very fortunate. She is pretty much an expert in Great Plains. She is excellent. She has 1 year of Ameristaff experience in Martinsville, and that's temporary service and recruiting firms. So we're very pleased to have her. I want to give a brief overview of our daily activities. I'd remind that our daily activities, while it's a list, many of these take multiple steps, and they are actually pretty time-consuming. We have recruiting. We onboard 2 times weekly, so on a Monday we bring in full-time staff, on Wednesday afternoon we bring in part-time staff. When you recruit and onboard, for example, April may coordinate the interviews, have a panel interview, go through the top applicants. After getting the top applicants, she's going to do the background check, she's going to do the drug screenings, and then go through orientation. We have compensation, benefits. Diana does most of the benefits and does an excellent job during our orientation, reviewing what's available to you, how it impacts you, what are the pros and cons of the various plans, the VRS hybrid plan, as well as the VRS 2 plan, workers' compensation, family medical leave, payroll, and Great Plains, policy and procedure, and employee relations. And under employee relations, we usually kind of couple that with corrective actions, performance, and other items. I do have some staff numbers that I just wanted council to be informed of that I thought were helpful in kind of understanding overall the traffic that we get here. We hired 28 full-time staff this calendar year and 74 part-time staff. The full-time turnover was about 15%. I anticipate that being about 2 or 3% more than last year. I do perceive that the priority need is for Public Works, which had a 22% turnover. The exit interviews show that it is not our next door neighbors that are always stealing them as much as the individuals in the for-profit sector, for example, Volvo, the individuals that make a Wonder Board in Pulaski County. I will say that Jim and I are already getting to work on that we've looked at creating career tiers. So for example, maintenance worker 1, 2, and 3, you could work on one crew, build your expertise and your specialization, work into a second crew, maybe even a third, and become a coach to help someone learn a trade. The police department, we've had some very good strides this year. I do want to acknowledge Chief Sisson. When I came from Martinsville, I had a great working relationship with Sean Dunn, who's now Williamsburg, and Eddie Cassidy, who's there now. I didn't think that it would be possible to have a strong working relationship, and Mark was excellent. When things arose where we did adjust, and council adjusted patrol officers' pay, we had Radford University come in, and Mark gave license to have them come in and have me visit them, and they came in and ran focus groups and helped us get things moving along. With engineering, Wayne was very helpful this year with engineering. We differentiated between an engineer in training and a PE, or a licensed professional engineer, before. In a classification system, you tend to try and bunch things in together that maybe don't belong, and this helps us work with our learning professionals. There's always room to work, but we made some strides there. Wayne and his staff, including Jesse, were very helpful in our recruiting too. About a year ago, we had 2 PEs. This year, we have 5. Part-time turnover is at 31%. There are some reasons for that. Our seasonal staff come in and out. Our lifeguards, they're about $8 an hour, but we improved that with council's previous actions. And then simple items of just having to clean out people who have been in the system and just aren't working for years on end.
Does that include council?
No, sir.
Okay.
Workers' compensation. Last year, the safety coordinator was moved to administration. And in speaking with Jim Lansney's and Randy, we felt it was best to move that position back into public works. One thing that I found is that just requiring 2 days in the field a week where you're going, you're visiting the sites, you're checking how people construct around traffic. Our people, as the guys driving the parking lot, driving 10 miles an hour, it's really helped drive things down. Last year we were about 1.3 in our experience rating, 1.2, 1.3 in workers' comp. This year we're down to 0.95. This helped us. We switched vendors and moved to Vacor. Val and our Deputy Director of Finance, Deanna Cox, are a huge help in switching to Vacor. We reduced cost of our overall workers' comp and liabilities by $320,000. And sometimes you just stumble into things. And looking what our prices were previously, it didn't match up with my prior experience with Martinsville. Martinsville has a prison system, or a prison, so it just didn't make sense. When we looked at the liabilities and some of the casualty property, Val and Diana were great. So I definitely have some things for them there. For our workers' comp, we have 5 reportables. Reportables really mean not only do you have a medical visit, but it requires more than first aid, and you're missing time from work. With that, we had 48 days away from work, non-reportables, about 64, which is a great improvement for the previous year. I believe we had 21 and over 900 hours away from work.
How much of those are in public works? Is most of those public works?
The majority of those are public works.
I want more detail, but
yeah.
And I don't want to drag it out. But yeah, most of those are public works. I know when we switched to the trash service, that was supposed to decrease.
And a lot of this also comes through simple things. And again, I wanted to give Jim, Ryan Hendricks, Travis Molson, Dave Sufton, and the superintendents there some props that we really buckled down on time. The simple things, driving. Again, the safeties when you go out to visit a work site into our performance. And just the guys knowing that the safety coordinator was out a couple of days a week definitely helped move things along into better performance, better safety practice. Activities and process. For Town 101, all these are tied into Destination 2022, or Town 101, where we introduce new employees to visit each site, each department heads present and talk about their goals and best practices. We had our first one, and we're having our second one in a couple of weeks. Because we require a school bus, Jim provides us a driver for 2 days. We see this progressing more in the fall season, where we can get other full-time employees rotated in, and where it's not a peak season for public works. For benefits, we have some positive projections. This year we had a work group that worked together, which was Chief's Benefits and Compensation Project Team, which was Chief Sisson, Jim Lansney's, Wayne Nelson, Valerie, and Randy. And I will go so far as to say is that we worked at it hard and have some promising numbers there. Won't get into the details as much as those can be reviewed in the budget and brought to work session. We build into next year compensation for salary survey and consultation. What to do, what maybe is market pay. We don't need to be married into anything or any single idea, but just to eyeball what our opportunities are and make sure it just works and works simply. Our human resource information system, I'm hoping that in time we can look at an ERP. I know it's a smaller goal. And part of that is that what we have when it was set up, that the access, the reporting, the accuracy, and the entry issues are not as efficient or just bottom line as accurate as we would hope to be. Last is office space, storage, and electronic files. Everyone's seen the side room here, but also within the other offices. I think it'd be good in the long term, not immediately. That could be a smaller goal, is to look at how we store things, how we keep them, and when to purge them, and very often that can be done routinely programmed just through electronic file. I very much appreciate your time and having me here today. I can try to shoot for 7 minutes. If you have any comments or questions, I welcome them. Otherwise, I do want to identify April and Diana before comments and questions. Kind of work within GP about 231 full-time employees, slightly over 231 part-time employees, and about 134 volunteers. These two ladies, these two employees provide us with a good, hard day's work and quality work at that. And I guarantee you every department head would say that.
Yeah, I'd like to thank these ladies for coming tonight, too.
Yeah.
A lot. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we got the students out of the way. Committee reports, Councilman Collins, you had a planning commission annual report?
Yes, sir. The planning department made up these little booklets for us. It shows what the planning commission did this past year. Every case we had, every conditional use permit is all in here. And in the lack of time, that's all I want to say about it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Harry.
Nice job.
Good job, Harry.
That was a great report.
Thank you very much.
You may need one more down this way, Harry.
Okay. That's okay. I'm working.
You don't have one?
I'll be working.
You got one? Everybody's got one. All right. Shoot her back. Thank you, Harry.
Yes, sir.
So your department heads can learn a lot. Can learn a lot listening to Harry on these things. Not just saying something here. Discussion of an action by mayor and council. We have an action on the ordinance to amend and clarify Chapter 42, zoning the Christiansburg Town Code in regards to the definition of kennel. Public hearing was held March 13, 2008. We have a motion to approve that one.
Thank you, Henry. I have a question. In the council agenda packet, there was not a link to say what the planning commission decided. What was that?
It was a vote on February 20th, a recommendation of 7-0, approval of the change to council.
Okay. Thank you.
And while I'm here, I did want to clarify too, just so that it was clear from the public comment earlier, and I didn't have a chance to talk to Mr. Waltz during the break, but there is not a change in the number of dogs and or cats. It is a simple language. It was a language change, so it changed from where more than a total of 4 dogs and or cats over 6 months of age are kept for any purpose, and it changed from where 5 or more. So basically, it did not change from that number. It was 4 before. I mean, it was where basically it had states.
Two ways to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion. We accept the planning commission's recommendation to better clarify our interpretation of kennel as presented in the agenda packet.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
That is 6-0. Thank you. Appointment to New River Valley Emergency Communications Regional Authority, the 911 Authority Board. Mr. Wingfield, is that you?
Yes. Just to bring up, of course, right now, Chief Hanks serves on the 911 Authority Board. He has expressed interest with possibly giving up his seat on that. Just to put it before council if you would want to entertain that.
You got somebody in mind to take his place?
I think it'd probably be the town manager.
Okay.
I would support that 100%.
Sounds good.
I'll second it.
We got a motion on it?
Got a motion?
I'll make a motion that we de-appoint Mr. Hank and appoint Mr. Wingfield to the board, but it's nothing personal.
I second it.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you. Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
It is 6-0. And Chief Hanks, I want to thank you for taking this on for the couple of years that you served on it. I think you brought a breath of fresh air and reasoning as someone who's been in the 9/11 response things for a long time. We appreciate it. We're going to sit back, and Randy seems to have some extra time on his hands. We're going to let him. Thank you, Randy.
If I'm doing one job now.
He gets a assistant town manager in here. He probably take 3 days a week.
Take a nap.
Town manager's report.
The only thing I've got is to ask to come up with a date to set the budget work session. If you have an available date.
Date or dates?
The off Tuesdays are the 3rd and the 17th. Unless, of course, you want to do it before one of the meetings, the regular meetings are the 10th and the 24th.
I don't see us, unless we start that budget process about 3 o'clock, I really don't see us getting through in an hour and a half time.
That's kind of what I thought.
I'm thinking probably either a Tuesday night, the 3rd, or hopefully that's the earliest and best time. Now, we could also do a Monday night, Wednesday night, third, whatever.
Well,
but
I'd start with I'll vote for Tuesday night, and the 3rd works for me.
I'll support that.
And we want to go at 5:30. I mean, we all know what these budget things are like, guys.
Yeah, let's set a president here. Let's have some food for a change.
It's not in the budget. So
I say let's do it at 5:30. Get some pizzas here.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we'll work on that one.
All right.
Actually, yeah, it could work. So we are on the 3rd. Is that agreeable with everybody at 5:30?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the 3rd.
Okay, very good. We're not going to take a vote on that. I think we're good. What else you got, Randy?
That's all I've got.
That's enough. Madam Attorney? Very good. Any other staff here to report? Hearing none. Let's get late, guys. How about
have that pizza, right?
No, we didn't. How about the council reports? Ms. Sachs, I'll start with you. You got anything going tonight?
I do not. We have all of our meetings in the near future, so next meeting I can report.
Very good. Mr. Hopper?
You know, I have 2 things here. Just hearing from the budget, and I haven't looked it over, I just have one thing to say. It's wow, huh? It looks great, doesn't it? All right, super job. Now, I do have a little story to tell. All right, a very good story, Mayor, and I'll move it quickly. Last Sunday morning at 8:30, snow all over the place.
Are you kidding me, Fort Hall?
Snow all over the place. Okay, about 4 of my neighbors, we all met down there on the street there, and it's all covered there. We talked about the snow, and one guy says to me, I said, Hufford, I thought you were on the town council. I said, I'm on the town council. He says, how come these roads haven't been plowed yet? It's 8:30 Sunday morning. I said, well, and when we all looked up to our right, and it's up a hill there, and there's 2 snow plows heading towards us. I said, how about that? And then I started walking away, and I said, anything else I can do for you guys?
I'm certainly glad you didn't tell them they were up plowing the mayor's street.
All right, I'm through.
Thank you. Mr. Stipes?
I have nothing except for praise for the staff for the budget they put together and made our job quite easy. So all through the ranks, I appreciate it.
Mr. Showalter?
I'll probably tack on to what Harry's going to say, but I'll echo what Brad said. I appreciate everybody coming, especially from HR. We never get to see you ladies, and that was a great presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Bishop? Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir. Henry and I are on the New River Valley Regional Commission, and each year the commission, they give an award to the Citizen of the Year. And Mr. Showalter and I, we put Mr. Hagan's name into the hat, and he won. He's the Citizen of the Year this year for the whole New River Valley.
I'd just like to tack on to that. Marissa Sachs, actually, she included an application, but our town manager actually, even though Randy, all 3 of us nominated Mr. Hagan, Randy put in the application, he did an excellent job. But a little bit about the voting. For the regional commission, that's your, every town in our area, Floyd, Pulaski, Nares, Rich Creek, the counties. Usually when we get to these citizens of the valley or friends of the valley voting, I mean, it's
cutthroat.
It's a cutthroat. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Hagan, it was unanimous right off the get-go. Now, Harry and I didn't know that. They kept handing it out. They marked off his name, and we were unsure, but I think Kevin Bird, the regional director, was just playing a prank on us. Because, one thing, Mr. Hagan, is it's well-deserved. I mean, you have a private business owner who invests not just in Christiansburg, but Pulaski as well. And that's resonated in him being elected or nominated and approved by your regional board members for the citizen of the valley. That will take place, his award will take place during our annual meeting, which will be at Sinkland Farms this year, and I encourage any staff or council members, which it will cost us to go individually. I'll get the date out to everybody, but
May 15th, but
it would be great to have a terrific showing from the town of Christiansburg out there, especially Sinkland. It's a special
But this
place.
year, there was more than one winner.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, you got it.
P. Buckley Moss.
P. Buckley Moss. Yeah, what's the second award?
What's the second
award? You want to say that again?
Yeah. Thank you.
And also, while the camera's on me, I want to make a... Oh, the camera's off, okay. I want to make one last plea to put up a sign for the sports figures in this town.
Okay.
That's all.
You will find the funding for it?
Do what?
The sports, you mean the athletic teams? You find the funding?
Yeah.
It's really not our responsibility to do that.
Well, that's your
since we don't support it. Well, I understand
Yeah,
that.
they're citizens of this town. Yeah.
Well, good. You get the funding, we'll do it.
Harry will talk. I agree with you.
Yeah,
All right.
We'll get it.
I have one thing. Mr. Hall mentioned a proclamation about proclaiming April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. It's in your packet. I did not have it listed on the consent agenda, so I would entertain a motion to accept this.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
It's 6-0. Thank you very much. Is there anything else to come before council? Anything else listed on the agenda? No other business? We are adjourned.